freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 376 of Gun Freedom Radio, where we engage, we educate, and we inform. We are brought to you by azfirearmsauctions.com, where you set the price on guns, ammo, and accessories. I am one of your hosts, Cheryl Todd.
And I'm the other guy, Dan Todd. Our theme today is Free for Congress, and our guest today is Lucretia Free. Lucretia is a mom, a small business owner, and publisher of the Vail Voice and the American Woman Shooter magazine. Prior to moving to Tucson in the 1990s, Lucretia was one of the first marketing directors for large corporate law firms in the county. In 2001, she moved in the county. In 2001, she moved to Arizona with her family and founded the Vail Voice, the hometown newspaper of Southeast Tucson, Vail and Corona de Tucson, right? Using the understanding the needs of rural and often overlooked area of the state, Lucretia has been serving the needs of Southwest Pima County, Arizona for over 20 years and is running for U.S. Congress in the 2022 elections.
Go
awesome.
You, and welcome to the show, Lucretia.
Hey, everybody.
That is phenomenal. What a huge step. Holy cow. And, really, maybe let's just start right there. How do you turn your life completely upside down and dive into a snake pit like politics? What is this driving force that called you to do that?
Yeah. I don't know if I'd call it a snake pit, although I know some people feel that way about it. I think it's a wonderful opportunity, actually.
I love that.
That. And so one of the things that what I noticed, when you go through your life, you don't necessarily realize the different things you're doing that bring you to the moment that you currently are in, right? But I can see now how, having started the paper 20 years ago, and I also founded a group out here called the Southeast Regional Council, which allows citizens to interact directly with decision makers, elected officials, administrators in the state, city and county level. It's always been about providing a voice, providing an opportunity for people to share their thoughts about things without the filter of some kind of editorial or something written by a reporter that you may have heard have their own biases. Mm-hmm. This is people being able to speak directly in their own voice. And that's why the Vail Voice is a different kind of community newspaper. So I don't have any reporters. I have what I call writers, and they're all local folks that live in the area, and they're maybe writing about how to grow a garden in our area or something else that's going on in the area. But it's very specific to this region. And I think that's one of the reasons that it always winds up on top when they're asked, where do you get your information from? The Vail Voice is always the number one.
Wow, that is just phenomenal. And I do like that you have that optimistic view of, going into this area to serve. And I think that there's such a distinction that we fail to make often enough between a politician who, I think in my mind, that means they're kind of in it as a career for themselves, versus a public servant who understands the role of being a representative of a body of people, a constituency. And I feel like what I'm hearing in your voice is that, this isn't like your next big, I want to put this on my resume move. This is just an extension of what you've been doing for a long time. And that is trying to help give other people a voice, Vail Voice, right? And
Yeah. That name isn't by accident. It came from that issue. And I think that especially when we see folks that run for office, too often it's about a power grab for them. So trying to, get that next rung, trying to make sure they have so many likes on what they're saying. And, there's a whole industry that's designed about us being divided. The industry wouldn't exist if we don't stay divided. If there was something about reconciliation, well, they would be out of a job. So, one of the things that I'm really focused on are those areas of agreement within our party, and focusing on that and being able to serve the folks that live in the Southeast, the southern Arizona region, because this really is a role where you're of service. It's a servant's role.
Yes.
And
how does it go from that though? I mean, it seems like all politicians go in there to serve, but then once they get in, then
Maybe
they
not
want to
all.
control. I said they all go in there I think they do. They honestly have a heart that they want to serve people.
Okay, I'll give
But
you
then
that.
once they get in, and Tucson has some issues. There's some people there that are very controlling, that are in power in Tucson.
Yeah, and fortunately, this isn't a city role. So this is, at the federal level. So it's a much larger region that goes all the way from Casa Grande, Marana, Oro Valley, and down through Sierra Vista. But yeah, I mean, I think it's, it's easy for folks. We are human, and our humanness can sometimes come out. And I think people can lose their way. Maybe they have the best intentions. I'll optimistically agree with you that people, that get into office perhaps have that same goal. But the reality is that we're seeing now, especially, there are people that actually don't have that goal, that they're really interested in doing power grabs, and interested in maybe serving a certain portion of people that agree with them, but not necessarily everyone. And that's tough, because there are going to be people that are not going to like what I believe and say. And there are other people that will agree with it. That's what the political process is all about. And we'll have to see how that turns out at the voting booth. But one of the things that I know that I have done is I have knocked on over 7,000 doors as I went forward to get my signatures. And so I feel like I have a pretty good handle on what voters who are Republicans think and feeling. And these may not be party people. They're just the regular folks out there that do the voting. And they were very clear on the things that they're concerned about.
And Lucretia, that brings up another point. Politicians have to hear from us, because if they don't hear from us, then the ones that bark the loudest are going to get the voice, right? And
Absolutely.
then you think that all your constituents, is that what it's called, right?
Constituents,
want this.
yes.
They want this because that's what I'm hearing. But silent people, that gun owners, things like that, we're not real vocal yet.
Yeah. I mean, we have to use our voice, and we have to get out there and vote collectively, whether somebody agrees with what I'm saying or not. It's important for us all to get out there and vote.
Right.
Let our voice be heard. And elections have consequences, right? And so
Graciously
we
let our voice be heard.
Yeah,
Graciously.
right. Respectfully, when we speak to
Yes.
our elected officials, to speak logically and respectfully is so important. But yeah, good point, Dan.
And we've been doing this radio show for quite a while now, and back before before Cheryl and I met, that was
ever a
38 years ago. You didn't think about how easy it is to talk to politicians. It's super easy to set an appointment or meeting, or send an email, or give your voice. And a lot of people just don't know that. They think they're untouchable, and they're not. They want to be heard. They want to hear you, right?
A lot of people think politicians are untouchable.
Right, and they're not.
And people want to be heard. Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And there's also those cases, though, where people reach out to politicians and they're not responsive. And just like your first bad relationship, that spoils all the ones to follow, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Because they have that in mind.
Absolutely.
And so folks that are in office have a responsibility to be responsive to folks that take the time to reach out to them. And that's one of the things that I've had to do, even with the paper. When people reach out to me and have a question about something, because the area that I serve includes incorporated regions as well as unincorporated regions. And so there isn't a mayor or city council that manages this little part of the world that we're all in. And so it's just really important to bring everyone together for this, for the meetings that we have with the Southeast Regional Council, that we allow politicians and our elected officials, as well as administrators from the various constituencies, be able to interact directly with folks that live in the area. Because, you know, when you call on the phone about a road issue, you get someone who's doing the best that they can, for sure, but they're not always the person who's able to give you an appropriate response to your question. So we have the director of transportation on our call. We've got the director of planning and zoning. We've got Supervisor Steve Christie, who is our Pima County Board of Supervisors elected official. And they're very responsive to the concerns of folks that they hear from on those calls. And that's one of the reasons that that group has been so successful.
Well, and I'm hearing you say that you understand the importance of collaboration and you know how to cause collaboration to happen and come together. That is such a key piece of success, I think, for anyone who's in a public servant role, because, you know, you have your own personal ideas, then you have a constituency that's, you know, divided, you know, you've got Republicans and Democrats in your district. They're both talking to you. And then how do you draw that all together, tie it to the Constitution, and make the best decisions for your constituency? It's hard, but it sounds like you really get that because you've had advisors in your realm and you've collaborated with people at a high level.
Absolutely. It's about getting the right folks together in the room and being able to brainstorm and see if there are areas of commonality. And, you know, 9 times out of 10, yeah, of course there are. Mm-hmm. But when you live on the outside areas where we're screaming and yelling at one another because we vehemently disagree, you can't move forward. And so when I go around and have spoken with folks, and I've had the honor and pleasure of folks inviting me into their home when I knock on their door, you know, when somebody opens the door and you show up with a clipboard and a pen and they invite you into their home, that they're an open person, because most people are kind of shimmying behind the door and don't want to.
Right.
I don't want her to hear me. And I don't know what she's selling, but I don't want anything to do with this clipboard and pen person who's standing outside the door. And so, you know, when they invite me into their home, and without a doubt, the majority of people, the significant majority of people are saying they want someone who can get stuff done for people that live in the region. Yeah. They're tired of the yelling. They're tired of the divisiveness. They're tired of that. And they're concerned about some really specific areas. And those areas they're concerned about the state of our economy. Inflation is higher than it's ever been since the 1980s. I've got people that are in the district, of course, that are on fixed incomes. And so when the groceries go up, when they can't buy meat, I was talking to a veteran who was saying, you know, it used to be a choice between getting your medicine and getting food. Now it's a choice between trying to figure out how to get food and how to fill up your gas tank. You know, so I mean, and these are those kitchen table issues that affect. This is what they're talking about in their homes. Yeah. You know, the high cost of food, the high cost of gas. They're concerned about the state of our economy. And so they're looking for some relief from that. And they're looking for leadership that acknowledges that everything isn't rosy. Okay. It's just not rosy. And so how do we get ourselves back on the right track? They're also concerned about the fact that we are reliant so much on foreign countries for our sustenance. And so it's like, you know, do we really want to be buying oil for figuring out oil deals with Venezuela and Iran? I don't think so. Not when we have the ability and the resources within our own country. And it certainly isn't as if in an instant everything is going to turn around. I'm not naive. I know it's a process. It's going to take some time. But can we get on that road so that we're not reliant on you know, bad actors for our own you know, well-being and sustenance?
Exactly.
The question is, why aren't we on that road already? You know, I mean, how did this all happen? How did we become so
dependent on other nations? Right. Well, you know, you've got to know what's in the rear view mirror, I suppose, to know how to navigate what's in the windshield. But it's important that we have people that are engaged, like Lucretia, and ready to start tackling some of those problems, because right now it feels like, you know, we're all so concerned with, well, how did inflation start? we're more concerned with the blame, which I think is the rearview mirror,
Right.
rather than, well, let's find a solution that doesn't then tie us to more compromises,
Right.
as you say, working with
Absolutely.
nations that they don't share our values, and we can, supply ourselves. Why would we work with nations that cause us to compromise our values? It's
You're right. We
craziness
can't
to
go,
me,
we
but
can't look in the mirror and fix it. We have to look forward and fix it.
right.
Yes, and I'm a forward-looking campaign. I believe that's in order to win the hearts and minds of more Republicans, who I'm proudly a member of the Republican Party. The only way we can go forward and win the hearts and minds of more voters and more folks to become Republicans in the future is to offer a message of hope and promise and
gosh.
steadfastness and holding to our values and moving forward. And that's how we
Absolutely.
do it.
Absolutely. So, right now, everything seems like a mess. Like there's so much division. There's so much going on out there that's this cancel culture. If you say the one wrong sentence or something, people want you wiped off the face of the earth and never to be heard from again. And we definitely experience that in the gun rights, the pro gun rights community, people who are, pro Constitution, people who are firearms owners, and we wear all those hats. You giving voice to people in this arena, you published a magazine called The American Woman Shooter. So that's really, people who own firearms right there, cancel. Women who own firearms, wait a minute, right? Because we know that
Yeah.
moms demand action tells us that all females, all women hate guns, which obviously we know that is not true.
Absolutely.
And so you have this magazine that can kind of, gives voice to a lot of people in those categories. The American Woman Shooter. Talk to us about that magazine, how it came about. Go.
Yeah, yes. Thank you so much for mentioning that. I have to be clear that it's not in production anymore. But yes, I did have it for a number of years, and just continuing along in that same thing of giving folks a voice who typically have not been heard from. Now, I wasn't the only women's magazine, and I'm not the only one touting women shooters. So I'm going to be clear about that. There's other folks that are also doing a wonderful job. One of the reasons, though, that I got started in this was, and I'm not proud of this, but I have a story of being very fearful of people who owned guns in my past.
Sure.
So, and thinking that people who owned guns, had to be crazy, because
Right.
who would want to shoot a gun? I mean, that's insane. And that was, I'm ashamed to say, that was my mindset early on. And then a friend said, oh, let's go to the range and go shooting. And I was like, yikes, do I really want to do that? And he said, yes, you do. And so I said, okay. So I went, and boy, am I glad that I did, because stereotypes can be held by all of us. And I was one who held them. And again, I'm ashamed that I did that, but that was dispelled as soon as I went to the range and I saw a number of folks there. There were kids that were there with their parents. There were women that were there with these blinged out, guns that were,
Yes.
being their highest and best selves, loving to just shoot there. And there were other people that were, very serious about it, and, that kind of thing. So it was just a great wide diaspora of folks that enjoy shooting. And I am now one of those people that enjoy shooting. And so there are people that do shooting sports, cowboy action shooting and other kinds of shooting for a sport. There are those of us that enjoy just going to the range randomly on a Saturday or Sunday to try to, hit the target. There are other people that carry for, personal safety reasons. There's just a wide range of why people carry guns. But the thing that I was very fascinated by were the stories of the women that I heard when I was at the range that day. And so there was the woman who was in her 70s who lived in a rural area in Arizona. And she was there with her daughter, and she wanted her mother to learn how to shoot because she was in a rural area. How long will it take the police to get there if something goes down? Not that I support our police, and they're doing a fantastic job. I also know that in some of these rural areas, it can take a minute, when you don't have a police station right down the street. And so she wanted to very much get educated on the self-protection aspect. There was another woman there who was shooting with a rifle, not a handgun, and she literally shoots elk in the winter for her food.
Right.
I don't know. Some people think that magically meat shows up. There's like this meat store. And so meat just kind of shows up and it's already packaged in the plastic. And, you just pick it up from the meat store and it's delivered to the grocery store and then you take it home. And, of course, that's a living being, a living animal. And so it has to be, prepared in such a way. And I've never seen folks that are hunters that are so respectful of the land. Absolutely. And so respectful of the process.
Absolutely.
This isn't done lightly or for someone who doesn't care about the earth. These are the true environmentalists in so many ways, because they care very much about what they do and cleaning up after themselves. And there's a process for doing this. And so I met women like that literally, do that. They cut up the meat and they put in their freezer and that's what feeds them. Absolutely. And so it was just an incredible, again, a journey out of my own ignorance and learning. And I thought, wow, if somebody like me, because I would have if you would have asked me in the early 2000s whether I was an open-minded person, I would have argued with you. I absolutely am an open-minded person. But what did my actions show? Didn't show that I was open-minded when it came to gun owners. And so I think a really good person to talk to about that, because I am someone who held that judgment foolishly. And so now I'm a very big proponent, obviously, and I am a gun owner myself, of the gun industry and of folks who like to go out and shoot and gun. There's no group of people who are more careful about guns than people who shoot and are part of this industry that we're in. And so just telling the stories of those women who I met at the range and expanding it out more broadly to across the entire country, and just really highlighting and celebrating women who shoot.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that, when people like yourself have gone through that journey, and it was because you opened yourself to, going with a friend to do something completely out of your comfort zone. And then you come to a different realization. Those are the most impactful testimonies.
Yes.
Right. Somebody that's just always grown up with guns like myself, and, that who cares really? But then to be able to hear, especially if I'm on the other side and I am fearful of guns or people who own guns, to be able to hear from you say, man, I used to be just like you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then here's this experience I had. Here's these people I met. And I have this other way of thinking and feeling about it now, that it gives people such a comfort that, you're speaking absolute truth, not propaganda, so I appreciate your journey. And, it wasn't that you were being foolish. You hadn't had the experiences yet. And
yeah.
so,
Well, when I grew up in rural Ohio. It was one of those areas where I was surrounded by cornfields, and there was a creek that ran through the back of the house, and Stover's farm was just over the rise. And every morning I woke up to the smell either of fresh cut grass from my dad cutting lawn or cow manure from Stover's farm. It was a time, it was just such a glorious time and space that I appreciate now. At the time, of course, I didn't appreciate it at all. But, as an adult looking back, it was just a really wonderful experience. And I didn't realize that with the creek that we had running through the back of the yard, we would catch crawdads and keep them in jars as pets. And I was well into adulthood before I realized that people actually eat those crawdads.
I have not,
like,
but I hear that people do. God love them.
It's a thing, Cheryl. So yeah.
More for them. So I give my portion over to someone else. Of course, one day I'll finally eat one and then go, what have I been missing all these years?
Maybe.
Lucretia, I'm really glad to hear that you were taught how to shoot by a responsible gun owner, took you out shooting, and you loved it and got involved, because we see doing the radio show, we've seen several people that have hated guns, but then became a victim of crime, and then got introduced into the guns and are now strong gun people, but responsible gun owners.
They had to go through
but they had to go through pain to get there.
Yes.
And so if we could introduce this to people more, then maybe they wouldn't have to go through that pain. Maybe they'd be able to defend themselves. So thank you for that. And one of the things that I worry about with people that say they like guns, some people, I'm going to say politicians, they say, yeah, I like guns, but there's no reason to have there's no reason to have an AR-15 because that's a military grade weapon and that kind of thing. I said weapon. I never say that word. But so, we have to learn to respect other people's interests and desires too. And so just because you like shotguns doesn't mean that another person that likes AR-15s can't have AR-15s. And we have to understand that, most gun owners are responsible gun owners, and we have a thing called the Second Amendment doesn't restrict us from any type of firearm.
And have you ever shot an AR-15? They are like so cool to shoot at the range.
Oh,
Oh my
they are.
gosh. It was incredible.
Yes.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun. It's like telling somebody they shouldn't have a Lamborghini. What do you need a Lamborghini for?
Right.
Because I want to.
Exactly.
And I'm allowed to, and this is America, and we can do that as long as I operate
Exactly.
safely.
But our Second Amendment, just our Second Amendment does not have any buts in it.
Right.
There's not a but in the whole thing.
27 words, and the word but is not one of them.
Yeah.
All right. I want to talk about the office that you are seeking. So this is at the federal level, as you said earlier, but you'll be representing our state. So what are some of the top issues you're running on, and how will you find that balance between the needs of our state and the needs of the nation?
Well, again, as I said before, the economy, supporting our economy and supporting small business owners is, a very important part of my platform. We all saw at the beginning of the pandemic how winners and losers were chosen, right? So small business owners were apparently the losers. And so we've all lost.
Excuse me.
Exactly. And our churches also were considered to be non-essential. And but we saw at the early, we've all lost a favorite restaurant that we used to go to, or a favorite small business. As a small business owner, I can say we put our heart and soul, our finances, everything into these businesses. And we're all prepared for some succeeding and some not succeeding because of market conditions. But my goodness, none of them expected that they were supposed to operate on a 20% occupation model. That's just not a thing in business. Nobody's business plan made that accommodation. And so it was just really tough for our small business community. And so I'm really concerned about government overreach. Let's let market conditions play out as they may. I'm very concerned about government overreach into business in general, small businesses in particular. And also, as I was saying before, the inflation is higher than it's been since the 1980s. And this is what I'm hearing from the folks that I meet. And something has to be done about it. And $1 trillion government programs are not the way to go forward when you have an economy like it is now. And then also the high prices of gas, which existed before Ukraine. Now everything is trying to be bundled into Ukraine. Oh, this is all about Ukraine. No, this existed before Ukraine and is going to continue to get worse. And I don't like seeing the president, trying to beg with the OPEC. That's not a good look. Trying to talk to, Venezuela and Iran. That's not a good look. Not when we have the capability within our own country. For people who are environmentalists, what better country to do that than our country? Are we going to trust those places to be environmentally friendly? Absolutely not. We have the technology and all for it to be safe. I'm sure, of course, accidents can happen, as they can happen anywhere and everywhere. But, in general, it's safe and it's an effective way for us to take care of our own citizens. I think the Ukrainian war really kind of woke up so many to how quickly things can change and how important it is for us to support financially our military. How we need to have a military that's very well funded and state of the art and ready at any time, because the world is a dangerous place and things can flip and change very quickly.
Absolutely. And, the whole idea of, what our rights are, what our traditions are, what our values are, what your constituents are asking for. At the federal level, there is this huge push again, because every time there's a Democratic president, there's this huge push against our Second Amendment freedoms. And just this past week, we're sitting in the studio on Monday, April 4th, 2022. This past weekend, there was an incident in Sacramento where some people got in a fight at a bar, and then guns were drawn. One of the guns, turns out, was stolen, right? So the gun is stolen, murders happen. Somehow at the federal level, we're hearing President Biden tell us, responsibly armed citizens, that we have to take the brunt of that and give up some of our rights.
And he said that before they knew who, what, where, or when.
Right.
Okay.
Because it fits a particular narrative, right? So
Right.
there's a rush whenever an unfortunate situation like that happens. Then the knee-jerk reaction to fit the narrative is, we've got to do something about people who own guns. But as you said, Cheryl, these are responsible gun owners. And so responsible gun owners should not be held accountable for a small band of people who obviously are mentally ill. And so, that's the way that I look at that situation.
Yeah, we're going to go into more details on this at closing of this.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's a shame because the responsible gun owner is being penalized for someone that they probably don't enforce the laws that we have right now. These guys that are doing repeat crimes, they go and they do it again and again, and they get slapped on the hands, even for violent crimes.
Mhm.
And so that's not going to solve the problem.
Absolutely.
No, it is not.
So you will make that part of your platform to protect our rights, our Second Amendment rights?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so as we're starting to wrap up, this is a question I'd like to ask all people who are running for office, because there are other people seeking the same office from all kinds of parties, right? We've got independents, libertarians, Democrats, Republicans. What makes you uniquely qualified to become our next Arizona representative?
Well, thank you for that question. It just seems as though this moment is the perfect culmination of everything that I have done. Sort of laying the groundwork of having worked, setting up marketing departments for law firms, where a portion of what I did was strategic planning and market research, but it also included collateral. So that laid the groundwork for me knowing how to put together a newspaper. So then when I came to Arizona, being able to understand how to put together a publication that again provided a voice for people, starting the Southeast Regional Council, and being able to work together with people from disparate backgrounds. I don't even know what the political backgrounds are, the people that go. It doesn't matter. We're working toward common goals and working on common issues. And so it's that kind of sensibility that I'd like to bring to Washington. I have to learn how to play in the sandbox well with others. You can't go in big, bad, and bold. I'm going to do this as a freshman congressman. You have to build coalition and get the right people at the table and make stuff happen. And it's a servant role. And I'm interested in being a servant for Southern Arizona.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for all that you do. Thank you for stepping up into a place of service in this way. When I have these kind of interviews, Dan and I have these kind of interviews, this is Arizona based mostly, but you will serve at a federal level. But we have listeners literally all over the world. Wherever there is internet, we have listeners. And so I'm always conscious that, if somebody's sitting at home going, well, I'm not in Arizona, I don't really care about this, that there's a larger purpose. And the purpose is, I think, to encourage people to say, look at this citizen who could just keep doing, the Vail Voice, keep working, in the areas that you're working, but you see that there is a bigger mission that you can play a significant role in. And instead of, saying, well, maybe somebody else will step up, looking to the left, looking to the right, you looked in the mirror and you said, yeah, somebody needs to do it. I'm a somebody. And I just admire that so much. Thank you for that.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And if people are interested in reaching out to me, or this is a grassroots campaign, and so could certainly use donations of any size, go to free4congress.com. And you'll see my website, and there's a place where you can reach out to me and share with me your concerns, because I want to hear from everyone as well about, sort of what they're thinking and what they're feeling, especially about this broadcast. And so, just appreciate your ability to have me on the program today, and appreciate any support that's out there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We really will be checking back in and seeing how things are going and cheering you on. But God bless, and we will be cheering you from this side.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank
Thanks, Lucretia.
you,
Thank you.
Lucretia. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great to see people wanting to get out there and do something to make some changes.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
Tucson needs help. The state needs help. The federal needs help.
Yeah.
But she's, being in Tucson, it will help there too.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like we kind of unpacked the thing about, the
Yeah.
reaction to, the evil people doing murderous things with stolen items. How do new laws possibly, that are
Right.
only going to impact us?
Well, the thing that,
how does that possibly make any difference?
right. The things that we didn't cover is that, so the news flash is that Sacramento, 6 people killed, 12 people injured. They, at the time that I read this, they didn't say anything about any kind of firearms that were used. They didn't know. But this morning they said one was a stolen handgun. But before we knew that, Biden went on one of, he made a rant, and I read it on Fox News that we need to have all guns go through a background check.
So even the stolen ones?
Well, wait, we don't, I'm going to get to that.
Okay.
This is what he said. We need a background check for all guns,
Okay.
no ghost guns,
Because
high-
there's a ghost gun
wait,
involved?
high capacity magazines, and military grade guns. Now, this was all said before they knew what was used in this crime.
Right.
Then we find out it was a stolen gun. A stolen handgun would not go to, if you steal a gun, do you have to do a background check? I guess
Like,
so.
how does
Why
this
not?
work?
Why not make that law? If you steal a gun, you still have to do a background check. And that way they can put one more tag of what you did wrong, right?
Well, when they find the person, because apparently bad guy or bad girl is still at large.
Yes, maybe more than 2. But it wasn't a high capacity gun. It wasn't a military grade gun. It wasn't a ghost gun. It wasn't a background check. Why are we jumping to it's almost like the Democrats, mostly Democrats, but the politicians are looking for something to happen so that they can have a cause to make another law that doesn't work anyway.
Right. Just more
Those-
restrictions on us.
Right. The stolen gun was against the law to have.
Right.
You can't own a gun if it's stolen.
Right.
The shooting was most likely against the law, not a self-defense from what we can see.
Right. Well, were they defending themselves against 6 people?
We don't
that were
know.
killed and 12
We don't
people?
know, but
Yeah.
you don't jump to,
That's
you
an
know,
excellent point.
right? You don't just jump to that. And it shows you the real image of what they are.
Right. Are they really trying to serve?
No,
No.
they want to control.
They're trying to control.
And so they're almost like, yay, there was another shooting today. Now we can go up on TV and say, we need to get rid of those deadly guns.
Right. He's talking about some kind of executive order. I
Yeah.
don't know if he's talking about the so-called one he'd done before, or if he's thinking of another one. But when you look at, it's like diagnosing if you have a malady in your body, right? And so, you tell the doctor, yeah, I don't really feel good. And he doesn't even ask you the details of how you don't feel good. He just already,
We're going to cut your leg off.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
that is the way this political stuff works, and shows you that they're not public servants. They're not serving our Constitution that they gave an oath to defend and protect. So,
And what kind of law, a guy that's carrying a stolen gun, what kind of law can you make that he's not going to break?
exactly.
That's the whole
thing.
thing. But what do? We penalize the responsibly armed citizen.
Exactly.
We penalize them.
It's crazy.
Well,
All
It's
right.
wait, first of all, it's Sacramento.
Right.
Do they have are their gun laws as easy as they are for us? Are they more
No,
restrictive there?
they're
They're more
there.
restrictive there, but yet they had a shooting there.
Right.
So, wake up.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that was Danny's commentary.
It's
for
just
the
really
day.
irritating.
It is, but we have got to wrap. And thank you so much to Lucretia Free and everyone like Lucretia who is stepping up. There are so many citizens who, for the first time, are feeling that call and answering that call to serve,
Yeah.
and to, give a good, a true voice of the people that she lives with, works with every day in the political forum. Right. It's so important. And I admire everybody who is taking that huge step.
Yes,
and-
learn more about her and support her.
Absolutely. Because campaigns take money and volunteers. So please, if you have any ability to do that, please go to her website. I think it was Free for Congress with the number 4.
FREE number 4 Congress.
Yeah. All right. And thank you to our amazing listeners all over the world. And when you take these conversations into your carpools, your dinner table conversations, into your spheres of influence, that's everything. And we value that so much. You could be doing anything, being anywhere, but you are here with us. And we thank you for that. If you'd like to rewatch any portion of this interview or see any of our others in the video version, go to YouTube, go to GunStreamer, or go to the OpsLens smartphone app and click the subscribe and the notifications button. If you want to hear the audio only version, go to our website, GunFreedomRadio.com, click the on demand tab and binge listen to your heart's content. We are also on other platforms like Spotify, right? And, I was listening to Spotify the other day and scrolling through, and I was like, oh, that's us. Wait, we're on Spotify. I forget to say that all the time. We want to be, where you are. And so we're on a lot of those kinds of platforms. And if you want to learn more about any of our subject matter experts that we've ever interviewed, click our guest tab on gunfreedomradio.com. It is a humongous, amazing resource. And when you spend time there, we don't hate that. All right. Until next time, we are going to pray for our nation. Pray for our leaders.
All of them?
Stepping into these leadership roles, just like Lucretia Free.
Yeah.
And yes, all of them, Dan.
Yeah.
Even the ones we don't like, maybe especially the ones we don't like. And until next time, be good to each other. Have a great week, and God bless.
Bye-bye.